Yeah, all right. Let's go ahead. Let's get started. So everybody, officially, welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider for KSL Sports. That's Josh Bennett, co-host, Utah Blockcast. Big one this weekend. Excited for this one. Kansas State coming into Rice-Eccles Stadium for the first time against number 12 Utah. Looking forward to this matchup. This is one that I think everybody was, curious to see how these two teams would fare this season. Obviously, things have gone pretty well for Utah and not so much for Kansas State. So, just kind of given where we're at in the year, with it being Week 13, and can you believe that we were talking about this before we started? Just last week, we were talking about Utah versus UCLA, pummeling UCLA, and now here we are, Week 13, just a week later. Just crazy how fast this season has flown by.
Just snap of a finger, gone.
Gone, man.
Yeah, no, and this one is this is a game preseason. A lot of us had circled as one of those games that would have a ton of implications to the Big 12 race, and I guess it still does have implications in the terms
at least for one team.
For one team, right? But Kansas State coming in. Potentially a little checked out. Certainly looked a little checked out last week against Oklahoma State. Should be a business as usual game for Utah tomorrow in terms of the game itself. But in terms of the bigger picture, there's lots to enjoy, be excited about with Senior Day, last home game of the season. Kyle Whittingham, maybe last home game. Huh.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I think that's a good reminder. Tomorrow is Senior Day, so I hope everybody remembers that kickoff is at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time at Rice-Eccles Stadium. So make sure that you get there early in your seats. Even before that, again, 1:30 p.m. kickoff time tomorrow afternoon. So make sure you're there early to give a warm welcome to the seniors that are going to be walking into the stadium for the final time in their careers. This is a big moment for these guys, a lot of whom have spent more than 4 years with Utah. And, there's still a couple that I think Aliki was here for the COVID year, so he's been here a very long time. And there's a couple other guys as well in that same boat. So a lot of guys we'll be saying goodbye to that were part of that 2019 team, 2020 team, and how special that was, kind of given the circumstances. And obviously we know, what happened in 2020. And so this will be, a significant moment for a lot of people tomorrow with Senior Day. And then you mentioned it, Kyle Whittingham. We know where he's at in his career. He's in the twilight of it. The sunset is getting close. And so, this very well could be the last time that we see Kyle Whittingham lead the team onto the field as the head coach of the University of Utah. He wouldn't tell us, and he never would. That's that's Kyle Whittingham for you. Nope. But when we talk about that, what do you think of when you think of Kyle Whittingham potentially coaching his last game at Rice-Eccles Stadium?
It's just weird because it's it feels like, last year is very much one of those got to be there for, his last game kind of thing. And it's the same thing over, and it's got to be there for his last game. Is this going to be his last game? You think about how long he's been the head coach of this program. There's people that come through and hang out in the spaces that weren't even alive for any other head coach. You know what I mean? So it is very weird, and it's tough not knowing if this is it and just kind of that wondering. But he said earlier this week to you guys, I'll be in one day and out the next.
Be here one day, gone the next. That's how he put it. And then that video, that moment. So Josh Furlong, asked him, "Would you announce it? Would you, if this was your last game, would you announce it?" Kyle just, "Nope. I'm here one day, gone the next." And then it was kind of this awkward, he acknowledged what he just said, to himself. And then he looked at me, looked at Sammy, and it was just kind of a unique situation. But anyways, I think, Kickstart My Heart very well could be the last time played, at Rice Eccles, as well as the pregame song.
You saw that Utah football tweeted that out?
Oh, yeah.
Crew? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Kyle Whittingham.
And it's interesting when you talk about Kyle Whittingham because he's a coach that has done a lot more than just coach a really good football program and turn it into a pretty competitive contender at the power conference level, to take it from a group of 5 program and turn it into what it is today, where the expectations are competing for power conference championships. That says a lot, but his impact goes even further beyond that. He's completely redefined what the University of Utah is. It's going through a massive evolution right now, and a lot of that is due to what Kyle Whittingham and that football program has accomplished these last 20 years. So we don't know for sure if tomorrow is it, but I hope that people at least make it a point of emphasis to get there early and to show a great deal of appreciation for the head coach, just in case it is. So, all right. And if you've got comments to the chat, to the people tuning in, please feel free to share your thoughts on Kyle Whittingham. We'll make sure to highlight those throughout the show as well. So please share your thoughts on Kyle, share your thoughts on the seniors, share your thoughts on the game, and we'll make sure to highlight those throughout the show tonight. So, all right, dude. Where should we start? You want to start with the college football playoff picture and who we should root for? Do we want to dive into Utah's path to Arlington in the Big 12 title race?
Let's start off with the Big 12 title race. That's the goal every year, is to win conference championships, to compete for conference championships. So let's start there.
Yeah. So, pretty simple. Where we're at now with 2 weeks left to go, I think we have a pretty good idea of what needs to happen for Utah to, make the trip to Arlington to contend in the Big 12 title race. There are essentially 5 paths for Utah to get to the title game, all of which include winning out. So that is priority number 1, is you got to take care of your own business. You got to beat Kansas State tomorrow. You've got to beat Kansas next Friday. So that's priority number 1, is taking care of your own business. Regardless of the situation, regardless of the scenario or the path, you got to win. So that's priority number 1. That's a given. The first path, Cincinnati wins out. So that means they'll add wins over BYU and TCU. Utah wins out, obviously. And then Arizona State wins out. They beat Colorado and Arizona. That creates a 14 tie at 7-2 amongst Utah, BYU, Cincinnati, and Arizona State, and Utah wins the tiebreaker via conference strength of schedule. So that's path number 1, and I think that's simplest, right? If you're looking for just a basic rooting guide, the next 2 weeks, Utah, Cincy, Arizona State. Big fans of those programs the next 2 weeks.
Big fans.
Definitely
biggest of fans of Cincinnati, because that's pretty much every tiebreaker involves Cincinnati winning the next 2.
Yep, for sure. All right, path number 2. Cincinnati wins out, like we mentioned. Utah, obviously. Arizona State wins out, and then Houston wins out. If that happens, that creates a 5-team tie at 7-2 with Utah, BYU, Cincy, Houston, and Arizona State, and Utah still comes out on top. Path number 3. Utah, Cincy, and Houston win out. Arizona State wins one of their last 2. That creates a 14 tie at 7-2 amongst Utah, BYU, Cincy, and Houston. And again, Utah wins via strength of schedule. Number 4, Utah, Cincy win out. Houston beats TCU. Arizona State wins one of their last 2. That creates a 3-team tie with Utah, BYU, and Cincinnati. And Utah wins that tiebreaker. Then the last path is Utah winning out, Cincy winning out, Houston loses out, and Arizona State wins one of their last 2, which creates a 3-team tie with Utah, BYU, Cincy, and again, Utah wins for the very same reason. So there's your 5 pathways. Hopefully, again, you're keeping tabs on who you need to root for, but essentially, Utah, Cincy, Arizona State. That's it.
Yes. Big Cincy fans. And then you look at on the college football playoff side of things, if not talking about, seed in Arlington, but looking at an at-large bid, which is still absolutely on the table, it really all starts with a number 22 Mizzou over number 8 Oklahoma tomorrow. That game is at Oklahoma, but could absolutely happen. That's one to root for. If Oklahoma goes down, that opens up one of those spots where potentially BYU doesn't look great against Cincinnati, but maybe plays in Arlington and maybe gets smoked by Texas Tech for a second time, and the committee puts Utah in front of BYU. That's the one of the two spots that Utah needs to jump, and that other of the two spots would be that Oklahoma losing to Mizzou, kicking them out. Some other ones, not likely, but Virginia Tech over Miami. That game is played at Virginia Tech. Miami number 13 is behind Utah, but could very well jump in front. Virginia Tech not likely to win, but with Franklin coming to town, might bring some juice, might have some energy, might get a little weird. Don't count out that kind of atmosphere. And then Kentucky over Vanderbilt. It's in Nashville, but something that could happen. We're rooting for chaos, right? Kentucky beating Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's number 14, gives more breathing space, weakens the SEC, all those good things. And then one that's tough that I've seen people talk about and go both ways on is the USC at Oregon game, number 15 USC, number 7 Oregon. I think where I land here is if Oregon wins, USC's out of it, totally out of it, don't have to worry about it. If USC wins, especially if it's close, competitive, whatever, if USC wins, Oregon's going to drop, but they're probably not going to drop below Utah. Right. USC, on the other hand, would probably jump right in front of Utah, so that would be kind of a nightmare situation. So, and
a couple of bounce back opportunity the next week for Oregon, if I remember right. They have Washington the final week.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
they do that. So
that would be terrible.
Yeah, some of the ones to keep an eye to. Obviously, there's other ones, but just kind of wanted to call out those like reasonable, like maybe there's something there. Teams like Alabama are playing like, underwater basket weaving Tech.
Overlooking the opponent is what we're looking for this weekend.
More or
we're
less.
Definitely looking for that. Yeah, I think Texas has Arkansas. That'll be an interesting one. Obviously, Texas, they've already fallen out, so it's not too much. But again, if they lose to Arkansas with Texas A&M that next week, that's still a win that could potentially boost them back up the rankings. So if they drop this one against Arkansas, I think that completely eliminates them from the conversation. So there's that to consider as well. But yeah, I think pretty straightforward this week.
Yep. Root for chaos.
Yeah, just chaos. All right. Let's get into the matchup here with Kansas State and Utah. Just to sort of set the stage here. Obviously, Utah coming in 8-2, number 12 in the country. Kansas State 5-5. They're 4-3 in conference play. They played Arizona as a non-con game, which some places are counting as a conference loss, it's interesting with this matchup. When you look at the numbers and you look at, I was blown away at some of the numbers from Kansas State in terms of the metrics. They are, it's easy to see where they're struggling, and it's on the offensive side of the ball. Just an inefficient offensive, output. They rely on a lot of big plays, just inefficient. The defense, though, is fairly tough, and I was surprised by that, given what we've seen from them. Some of the numbers on the ground and what they give up. I think they're bottom half in the Big 12 in rushing yards allowed per game at right about 147. But some of the numbers they're doing a good job limiting success rate, doing a good job of limiting drives and sustained drives, forcing 3 and outs and that sort of thing. This defense, we'll talk about it a little bit more, really good at generating takeaways as well. So an interesting matchup. This is one that I'm sort of, I know what happened last week against Oklahoma State, but I expect a much better outing from Kansas State this weekend. So couple interesting dynamics. So obviously Utah coming in, averaging over just about 280 yards on the ground. Like I said, Kansas State giving up about 150 on the ground as well. You like Utah's matchup there to have their way on the ground. And then the quarterback. What do you make of this quarterback matchup, Josh? Bennett.
Yeah, I mean, I think both quarterbacks kind of play a lot of the same game. They're both at times can be very run heavy, run first, and they're both able to create with their legs to absolutely punish defenses. With that being said, kind of surprising to look at Avery Johnson's numbers and see that he's at that almost 2,200 yards on the season. It certainly doesn't feel like he's that much of a threat with his arm, but it's a fun quarterback matchup if you like electric quarterbacks that can make guys miss, and we'll see how much what the combined number of passes on this game is.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. So Kansas State averaging 28 points per game, giving up about 25 per game. And you look at what Utah's doing, 41 points a game, giving up 15, just doing a tremendous job of creating that scoring margin. And, I talked about this earlier this week, but, Kyle Whittingham was he was asked about their fourth quarter scoring and how they feel about running up the score. And Kyle Whittingham said that that's not something that they do. They don't believe in running up the score. And, that certainly irked a lot of fans of a certain program, which whatever Kyle says typically does. And I went and looked at some of the numbers of their 41 points per game. 31 of those points are scored in the first half. So it's you're averaging 10 in the second half, and a lot of those scores late in the game. You're doing it with your second unit offensive line, and if you're giving up scores to second units and third units and third stringers, man, that's a you problem. That's not on Utah. That's a you problem. So super interesting with all of that conversation. But again, just Utah taking care of business, doing a tremendous job, staying efficient, and creating a lot of explosives on the ground. I think that's been a really key element that's boosted this rushing attack, with Wayshawn Parker settling into his role as RB1 and sort of the throttle, being able to just be let loose a little bit. He had 15 carries last week. Good production for him. Daniel Bray doing what he does with his explosiveness. The run game has really hit its stride, and I think that's going to be really key for Utah tomorrow. So, all right, dude, you ready to dive into to our winning recipe for Utah in this matchup?
Yeah, real quick before we do that, I just want to throw out a point of clarification here from the chat. I'm a little behind, so forgive me if you corrected this, but isn't kickoff at 2? No, kickoff is at 1:30.
It's at 1:30.
Right, it's at 1:30. It's senior day, maybe Kyle Whittingham day. Kickoff's at 1:30 p.m.
1:30.
Do not be late.
Yeah, it's 1:30.
Do not be late.
Thank you for asking, though, for clarification. I appreciate it. Shout out to Goat Girl 5968.
The winning recipe.
Yeah, winning recipe. Sorry. All right, I'll go first. Winning recipe. Where are we at? Protect the ball. Bullet point number 1, protect the ball. Kansas State, despite their record, they are plus 10 in the turnover margin. And I think we've all watched at least one Kansas State game this season. And, we've all watched Sunshine, throw an interception or two maybe in a game this season. He's only got 5 on the year, which is surprising because I feel like every time I watch him, he's thrown an interception. But, I think that says a lot of what this Kansas State defense is all about, and a really impressive accomplishment. 24 takeaways so far this season. That's a remarkable number. So 12 interceptions, 12 fumble recoveries. I think the guy that stands out to me when watching this defense is linebacker Desmond Purnell. He is just an agent of chaos for them. 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, 4 PBUs, has a couple of sacks, a handful of tackles for loss. But beyond Purnell, this is a pretty balanced spread of who's generating these takeaways. It's a lot of interceptions by the secondary spread out, linebackers, forced fumbles and fumble recovery. So for Utah, they've done a much better job of protecting the ball over the last couple of games. This is going to be the toughest test, and Utah needs to do a tremendous job of protecting the ball. And as long as they do that, I think the only formula for Kansas State to hang around with Utah is by getting takeaways. So protect the ball, don't shoot yourself in the foot, and just take care of business. So that's bullet point number 1 for me, protect the ball.
Yeah, I'll go with start fast, hold their head underwater, and pile it on. This is a team that's, like, again, last week, 13-7 against Oklahoma State. Not a great out, or 14-6, sorry. Not a great outing. Got outgained by Oklahoma State. Just team that's mostly checked out at this point, but can't give them any reason to stick around. You let them score first. You find a little bit of slow start offensively. You let them start thinking, start believing in something. Maybe they're playing for a bowl game, whatever. You let them find that motivation, a little smack talk, something just all of a sudden allows them to hang around. So just start fast. You get out to that 7-0 start, 10-0 start, 14-0 start, and then all of a sudden you just start to play your game of defense, run the ball, control the game offensively, and just start to pile it on as Utah has for the last 3 weeks. So last 3 games, I should say. So I think starting fast, that's going to be one of those things that's just going to make it be truly business as usual for Utah.
Yeah, I agree. Next bullet point for me in my winning recipe is controlled chaos. Against a dual threat QB, Utah typically likes to do their little cage rush to keep the quarterback contained to the pocket and collapsing and breaking through the pocket. That's going to be interesting, and I think that'll be an element we see tomorrow. But with Johnson, he really struggles under pressure. It is a significant drop-off in terms of his execution and what he's doing. I think he has 11 turnover-worthy plays under pressure where, not pressured or blitzed, not blitzed. Each of those are about 3. He's got 3 turnover-worthy plays. So when he is under duress, that is when he makes the most mistakes. So I think for Scally, I'm really interested to see what sort of game plan he puts together. I don't necessarily anticipate, a super aggressive game plan like we saw against Colorado and Caden Salter and just blitzing the hell out of Sunshine. But I do think, this is a game where it's going to be important for Scally to, create different looks, send different looks, and it's going to be on the front 4 primarily. And I think John Henry Daly has a pretty favorable matchup against their left tackle. He's given up 15 pressures, 6 of which alone came against Texas Tech and that defensive front. And we know that John Henry Daly has been neck and neck with those 2 defensive ends at Tech as well. So I think I'm looking at JHD to have a pretty productive day tomorrow, and he's going to be pretty important. And then I'm looking for the secondary to have a bounce back performance. That's going to be key. And I think for Scally, again, looking for controlled chaos where you're trying to keep him contained to the pocket. You're sending minimal blitzers. You're keeping an eye on him because you don't want to let him loose and allow him to scramble for big gains. That's hurt Utah in previous matchups. They've done a much better job of containing the QB scramble, but that's going to be key number 2 for me is controlled chaos.
Yeah, and I think that plays like hand in hand into my second ingredient, which is to take Avery Johnson from one-dimensional to no-dimensional. So for the most part, he does feel like a one-dimensional running quarterback. running back. Yeah. Anyway, go with it. No, he looks to run it. That's what he leans on is his ability to create with his legs. In spots, he's able to throw it with Jace Brown, wide receiver 1, being out. That's a huge miss in the action that I have seen from Kansas State this season. When you're watching, extended highlights, condensed versions of games, Jace Brown is somebody that shows up over and over again. Yeah. He's been a playmaker for them. He's been good. One of the bright spots of their otherwise bad season, but he's not there tomorrow. So it's gonna be tough for Avery in the throw game. He doesn't really have much outside of Jace Brown, but you want to take it to where his legs don't become something that can become a problem that can burn you over and over again. Utah has had moments where teams have been able to find some success running the football, especially some of those quarterbacks that can move around a little bit. So we'll see, but Utah plays a disciplined game of football and cages the quarterback as you've that controlled chaos as you've been you just teed it up. I think you're able to take Avery Johnson from one-dimensional to no-dimensional.
I think that's going to be big, and so for me, my last little point here is be prepared for surprises. We talked about it earlier in the show, but like Kansas State didn't look great against Oklahoma State, but we've all been watching college football to know that it's very easy for programs to look really crappy one week and bounce back, with a much better effort and showing the very next week. And I think, there is a very real chance that maybe Kansas State has mailed it in, given the season and where they're at. But I think there's also a decent chance that this is still a competitive group. It's a group that has pride and wants to finish and potentially play spoiler here this weekend. So I think it's going to be important for Utah not to take it for granted what they saw last week, to expect Kansas State's best shot. I think given what we know of Oklahoma State this season and what they're going through, it's very easy to overlook Oklahoma State and not give them your full attention during the week of practice. In fact, I would fully anticipate that Kansas State probably spent a decent amount of time preparing for Utah a little bit during Oklahoma State week. I would not be surprised to learn that if that was the case. So anyways, beyond that, I think just being prepared for Kansas State's a much improved Kansas State from what we saw last week. And, you mentioned Jace Brown, and a player that I'm really curious about. I don't want to say worried about because he hasn't done anything really this season, but Lincoln Cure, the former 5-star tight end, he's a player that suffered an injury in fall camp, and so his acclimation process has been a little delayed. But he started to see more opportunities the last couple of games. And given the fact that, they've now lost their most explosive weapon in the passing game, Lincoln Cure, I was talking with Mitch Fortner of Power Cat pregame, out there in Kansas State, and he talked about how good of an athlete Lincoln Cure is. And I think that can be potentially something that, Kansas State looks to utilize to find a spark, right? We always hear Kyle Whittingham just talk about that, looking for a spark. And I think Lincoln Cure, just kind of given his talent and ability and potential, I think he could be somebody that, Kansas State looks to utilize quite a bit. So just to kind of catch Utah off guard, somebody that they're not fully prepared for, that's sort of the thing that I'm talking about. Be prepared for surprises. Be prepared for a much better Kansas State performance, and that is my final ingredient to my winning recipe.
I like that. When a team's playing with nothing to lose, surprises are one of those things that you can expect. Mm-hmm. Right? Expect surprises. Anyway, my third and final ingredient is just that the fans bringing that energy. It's a day game. These are some of those games where Utah has struggled in the past. Those weird early afternoon games against teams that can bring it, maybe aren't the greatest, but like you think about, like there's a Washington State game out there. There's other games. We don't need to open up bad wounds, but just got to bring the energy. Utah needs to start off. Have the fans in the seats. 1:30 is kickoff, and just bring the juice so that way this place is rocking all day tomorrow.
Love it. Love it. I think that is going to be important. I think, a good crowd, a good showing from the crowd is going to be important. Having that energy ready to go, from kick just to sort of set the tone. I think that'll be a big thing for Utah tomorrow as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. All right, dude, let's get to our over-unders, and then we'll get to some of these questions that have popped up in the chat. And again, if you've got questions, you've got comments, please use the chat feature. We'll make sure to run through some of these questions once we're done with these over-unders. So appreciate everybody that's tuned in, that's chimed in as well, but let's get to some of these. Let's get to these over-unders here. So I'll go ahead, rapid fire here. Over/under Utah rushing yards 255.
It's just over every week until it isn't, right, Bartle?
Yeah. I try to put respect on opposing defenses, and yeah, it's just over. Yeah, it's over. All right, Utah passing yards over/under 225.
I'm gonna go slightly over.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go slightly over. I don't know.
Okay. I was gonna go under, but you got me thinking.
I just don't know.
Yeah, man. I maybe sending Ryan Davis, Dallin Bentley off with a bang. That makes plenty of sense to me. Shoot, I'll go over as well. Over 225. I think it's going to be a pretty fun day tomorrow. All right, next one. K-State rushing yards, over under 135.
I'll go over.
I'll go over as well. Yeah, I'll go over as well. Next one. Utah sacks, over under 2.5.
I'm going to go over here.
Want to. I think they get 2. I'm going to go under. Dang it, I'm a coward. Gosh dang it, I'm a coward. I'm going to hate it. I hope.
Scared money don't make money, Bartle.
Dude, I hate you for saying that. Utah takeaways, over under 1.5.
Pressure Lake City, man. Utah takeaways, over under 1.5. I'm going to go under.
Under? Wow. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over. Coward. Next one.
5 sacks, DD. 5.
Time of possession for Utah, over under 32 minutes.
I'm going to go over. Because why not?
I'm going to go over as well. Yeah, I'm going to go over as well. They're currently averaging like just a shade under 32 right now. I think they control the ball tomorrow. All right, first Utah TD.
I want to go outside the box here a little bit. Not super outside the box, but I'm going to go with J.J. Buchanan.
Oh, okay. Going with the young guy. See, I'm basic. I'm thinking senior day. I'm thinking they're going to try to force it into the seniors. I'm thinking Ryan Davis. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Ryan Davis gets a little tutty tomorrow. Start us off. And then a couple more here. Utah's leading tackler. Who's that going to be?
It's good, John O'Hall. John O'Hall, leading tackler.
I agree. John's been playing some ball. I've got some numbers. I got something I want to share with people. We got a question about the linebackers. I want to share that because John's been balling.
I do got a bonus over under.
Ooh, what you got?
Over under hour and a half before all the J Dogs, chili dogs are gone.
Dude, I hope people show up to the tailgate. You tailgate and enjoy some chili dogs. Throw it up for Chili Dog U. Proud member of Chili Dog U. It's a proud membership, and looking forward to tomorrow with the J Dogs, man. I hope people show up, and I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go over under whatever time you put out there. I think those J Dogs are gonna be hammered.
They're going to go fast, so get there early. If you get there early enough, you might see Bartle and I.
Chili J Dogs. Oh, man. Whew. That sounds good. Oh, man. Love it. All right, dude. Score prediction for tomorrow. What you got? Not talking chili dogs. Talking actual score.
Chili dogs. I'm going to go 41 for Utah.
Okay.
Thankfully. 17. I think that's what I did last week too, but I'm sticking with it. 41-17.
I'm going to go 45-20. I think it's going to be a big game. Yeah, I think 45-20. Lots of fireworks. All right, dude. Let's we got some questions that we gotta get to. And also some more chili dog U posts. We gotta make sure we get everybody.
Come get you some.
What questions we got in here? All right, I'm gonna throw this one to you. What's worse, being a BYU fan or being told you look like a BYU fan?
I'd rather be told that I look like a BYU fan, because then that means that that doesn't mean that I am a BYU fan. So everybody just thinks you're a BYU fan. But if I was a BYU fan, everybody thought that I was a Utah fan.
I'm just kidding. Fan how you want to fan, root who you want to root for. All right. This one is the QB comparison between Avery and Dampier or Avery and Bird. Ooh, it's an interesting question there. Not sure exactly what sort of comparison he's looking for. I think there's a lot of comparisons between Bird and Johnson. I think there's a lot of comparisons to the situation Kansas State was in a couple years ago with Avery Johnson and Will Howard. Yeah, I think it's very eerily similar.
Yeah, they were all about Avery Johnson and didn't care about Will Howard, and was excited to see him go, and he went and won a national championship. And sure, that's because of the resources maybe around Will Howard at Ohio State, but I don't know, things haven't been
What's
that great.
Ohio State going to provide him that Kansas State couldn't? What's that?
Chili spaghetti. They have Skyline Chili in Columbus.
Oh, we got to get some of these scores up here. Make sure to give your scores here. We'll get them posted here. John Groman, 45-17. Trent Holmberg. Is that the Holmberg I know? 34-20 Utes? If it is, shout out to homie. Ivan popping up in here? What up, Ivan? 45-17. Look at the big man. Big man Ivan. All right, dude. Crane, yeah, we put you on, dude. Enough of that, okay? Enough.
Yeah, Crane.
Ooh, Father Stu, are we expecting Spida or can we expect Free Bird? It's going to be Dampier starting. You'll see both. Like, we're to that point. You'll see both. But Dampier's good. Much better shape this week than he was last week. I'll say that much.
Second half, up by 30, in comes Bird.
Got some more scores coming in. 42-20. Yeah, see, right in there, right? 41, 42, 45.
We got a 50 burger.
55, 52. Oh, they're starting to come in. Love it.
We got the 50 burger. TJ.
Yep. Oh, D-Tier, you had a question I wanted to hit on real quick. Where'd that go? Oh, here we go. So this D-Tier asked this while I was talking about the controlled chaos, and he asked, are the linebackers up to containing the quarterback? I was looking at some numbers in PFF, looking conference-wide in the Big 12, and PFF has this little metric, pass rush productivity, which is basically, it just measures how much pressure you're generating per pass rush snap. And let me pull it up here. It was actually really impressive. So among all defensive tackles, defensive ends, and linebackers in the Big 12, that have played at least 70 snaps, pass rush snaps, have at least that many snaps. Jonathan Hall, number 2 in the Big 12 in pass rush productivity, behind only David Bailey. John Henry Daly tied with Romello Height for number 4 in the conference in pass rush productivity. Lander Barton. Lander, put some respect on his name, Barton, number 9 in the Big 12 in pass rush productivity. Logan Fano, number 13. This is defensive ends, defensive tackles, linebackers, all Big 12 teams. And then Lance Holtzclaw, number 21. Basically what I'm saying is Utah lets their dogs eat. They let these guys get after it. So when it comes to the linebackers, yeah, I think Jonathan Hall, I think Lander Barton, I think Trey Reynolds, he doesn't have the snaps, but we saw what he did against Colorado, right? These are guys that when you set them loose, they're going to go get the ball. They're going to go get the quarterback. They're going to make plays in the backfield. These are guys that get after it. They create a lot of pass rush productivity, whether it be pressures, QB hits, sacks. They're getting after it. And so I think this is a great matchup for them again. I think they're going to be pretty important in containing Avery Johnson, and I think they're up for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the team's shown the ability to mostly contain these mobile quarterbacks. It's not the first time Utah's been tested in that regard. I think the biggest thing is to just make sure you're getting in front of Avery, wrapping him up, tackle him, bring him down to the ground. Don't let him get confident. Don't make silly misses. Should be all right.
Oh, Brandon, you missed this one. Does Utah run up the score in the fourth? No. I ran the numbers. I ran the numbers this week. Of their 41 points, they're averaging 31 of those points are scored in the first half. So, if we're worried about running up the score in the first half, maybe Skip Bayless can go on a little Twitter rant again about that. But, in the second half, they averaged, I think, 7 points in the third quarter. And then in the fourth, you've got your second and third string offensive line out there. If you can't stop Utah scoring touchdowns on you with their second and third unit linemen and running backs and tight ends taking snaps in the Wildcat, that's a you problem. That's a you problem.
This is college football. When the second team gets in there, when the third team gets in there, they're looking to make a name for themselves. They're looking to make a moment, right? To expect them to just go out there and no, that's not stop them.
Yeah. But and John Groman with a great point. Speaking about wrapping up, need to tackle. And yeah, that is a key, right? Secondary gave up a couple missed tackles, allowed some yak for sure. So that's going to be key is fundamentally sound tackling and doing all that. Man, loving this. The Chili Dogs. I'm loving all the Chili Dog comments. Shout out to Chili Dog U. Shout out to the boys. Tailgate U. Tailgate. Make sure you're there tomorrow. Starts at 11. Show some love to the fellas. They're doing a great job with their podcast as well. So it's been fun. All right, dude. I think we've had our fun tonight. Any final thoughts before we put a bow on this one?
No, just weird that we're kind of getting down to it. End of the season here. That truly does fly. So if you're going to the game tomorrow, enjoy one more Saturday at Rice Eccles. If you're not, make sure you're doing all those hate watches properly on the way to Utah finding an at-large college football playoff spot, or in the post game watching the Cincinnati game. I don't know who they play this week, but I really hope they win. They look really cool on social media this week. But no. It's fun. We're having fun, and it's a lot more fun winning than losing. It's a lot more fun to talk about wins than losses. So let's have fun. Another Saturday of fun tomorrow.
Yeah, let's definitely have fun. Looking forward to getting out to the tailgate nice and early. Looking forward to the Chili J Dogs, and looking forward to tomorrow. Again, you already mentioned it. Senior Day kickoff 1:30 p.m. Make sure you're there bright and early to welcome those seniors for the last time into Rice Eccles Stadium. And again, we've talked about it. We talked about it to open the show, but potentially Kyle Whittingham's last game at Rice Eccles Stadium. So don't take that for granted. Get there early, show the love, show the support, and let's have some fun tomorrow. I think tomorrow will be a fun day. Obviously, a very competitive matchup. That's not to discredit or dismiss the Kansas State Wildcats. Utah's going to have to bring it, and I think they've got the sort of mindset that they're approaching this with a business-like mentality, and they know they need to take care of business. So go ahead, we'll wrap this one up. For myself, for Bennett, this is the Utah Blockcast signing off.